Welcome to One for the Road. I'm Devvy Kid and your commentator. One for the Road was developed and created to help the busy commuter and Americans who don't have access to the internet find out what Congress and the media won't tell you. In March 2005, George Bush, then Mexican President Vicente Fox, and Canadian Prime Minister Martin met in Texas. They issued a bombshell that was and still is completely ignored by mainstream and cable media: the creation of the Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, NAUSPP. This so-called agreement was virtually unknown to any member of Congress, and it fully explains why Bush has refused to close the border between Mexico and Canada. This so-called North American Union and Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America is treason. It is no conspiracy theory. All the documents are in place. It calls for the complete and total integration of these United States of America with Canada and Mexico to comprise a region for one world government. Going hand in hand with this treachery is another tentacle, the Texas Trans Corridor. This sellout of America is also why the Bush administration is about to allow thousands of Mexican trucks to enter the U.S. past the current 25-mile mark. Not only will this present an immediate danger to Americans on the roads, but it will gut jobs for American truck drivers. Let me give you a brief overview of what all this means. The purpose of the Trans-Texas Corridor, the SPP, and all of its tentacles is to continue destroying good-paying American jobs as close to zero labor costs as possible, allow this full-blown invasion by illegal aliens to flood across the border, destroying the middle class for a close to zero labor cost bottom line, gut the American trucking industry with cheap Mexican labor, Mexican truck drivers, further flood this country with consumer products from barbarians like the communist Chinese, Mexico, and South America. Under the Bush dictatorship, the Mexican government will be allowed to set up a smart port in Kansas City. Let me quote Dr. Jerome Corsi here regarding this smart port. The main purpose of opening Lázaro Cárdenas to receive a greater volume of containers from the Far East and linking it with the planned NAFTA Super Corridor and Kansas City Smart Port is to reduce labor costs. Longshoremen would not be employed at the port of Lázaro Cárdenas, and in Mexico, the employees of Kansas City Southern would not be United Transportation Union workers. To the extent that Mexican trucks would become involved in the operation, it would mean Teamster union drivers would not be employed in the operation, unquote. The sickening eminent domain Kilo decision will be used to continue kicking Americans off the land, destroy their businesses, kill off more family farms and ranches. If we don't stop this now, it won't be long before all of our food will be coming across the border in trucks from foreign countries. A nation that can't even produce what it needs to survive will wither away and die. Stop buying foreign products, especially foreign fruits and vegetables. Anti-American companies have laid off millions and shifted their operations to foreign countries, sold us out for corporate profits, and that's what this is all about: greed. I have written about this in dozens of columns, and it will get worse if this NAUSPP isn't stopped. Those trucks coming out of Mexico are going to flood this country with even more products made by foreign workers while Americans face economic annihilation. Those trucks loaded up at ports in the Gulf of Mexico are going to further drive American workers into poverty. American truckers cannot compete with $4 an hour, no benefit Mexican truck drivers, and American workers cannot compete with $1.40 per day and or slave labor from communist China or India. Americans will continue to lose their jobs, more factories and companies will close, and those 2 paychecks, which you can't even live on now, will have to be supplemented with 2 more per household. This is as real as it gets, and the conflagration is about to blow up right at your front door. If we as a people do not take a stand, there will be no middle class left in this country in 5 years. Look at the devastation to manufacturing, agricultural, and industrial jobs since NAFTA and GATT were unconstitutionally signed into law by Bill Clinton a little over 10 years ago. This disastrous plan will allow Mexican trucks and truckers to cross our border with no weight or load accountability restrictions enforced, as their loads will not be under the same security scrutiny that our truckers' loads have to comply with. There are not nearly enough qualified U.S. Department of Transportation inspectors to do the job now of inspecting the Mexican trucks and drivers, and it will only get worse. This will swing the door to our borders wide open even more to further importation of drugs, terrorists, weapons, and human smuggling. Most of the Mexican truckers do not speak, read, or write English, and many have less than an 8th grade education. Many will drive their trucks with no liability or collision insurance in place, coming across the border in 15 seconds flat. Many of those truckers will be driving with no driver's licenses and some with criminal and DUI driving records. There is no way to do background checks on these drivers or their driving records. Haven't enough Americans been slaughtered by illegal aliens from Mexico and South America? If one of these so-called legal truckers who speaks little or no English, reads little or no English, and therefore can't read the signs on the roads, maims or kill your family, who do you think's going to pick up the tab and be held responsible? They'll skip right back across the border and leave you holding the bag. This is just the tip of the disaster about to land on your doorstep. I urge you to read my columns on this issue and Dr. Jerome Corsi's. You can find them by using any search engine. Just type in North American Union Jerome Corsi, C-O-R-S-I. This is as real as it gets, America. Please take the time today to call your member of Congress and demand passage of H-Con Resolution 22 to withdraw these United States of America from the unconstitutional NAFTA treaty. Also demand passage of H-Con Resolution 487, which states the United States should not engage in the construction of a North American free trade agreement, superhighway system, or enter into a North American Union with Mexico and Canada. Many states have already passed anti-North American Union legislation because this is no joke. Get on the phone and help save this country for you, your children, and your grandchildren.